we're back, and we've been talking about a lot of really interesting information, um, just a lot of changes that we made to our lives.
Never easy.
Never easy. Change is really, really hard. So I thought we could talk about that today.
That'd be great.
Change is hard, and we're sitting here and we're talking about some pretty big changes, and it didn't happen overnight for us. We didn't just decide. I mean, it seems like he's a doctor. Obviously, he knows what he's supposed to do, and just poof, let's overhaul everything. It's a little easier for him to kind of uptake that kind of stuff. I don't know if that's a male thing or what. Some people can change a little bit easier than others, but most of us, like myself, have a really hard time. We're really stuck on our old ways, even if they're not good ways. I guess ancestrally it was dangerous to change, habits. So that's why we want to cling so hard to the status quo. If we, change your environment, now you're not as familiar with your surroundings. There could be a tiger lurking, or whatever. So our bodies and our brains really resist. They fight us when we want to change, even if it's not serving us. So I noticed this with myself, and you had encouraged me because you were telling me stress is the root of everything, and
she didn't believe me.
I didn't believe. I'm always like, you're always talking about stress. Like, that is such a thing to say. Oh, it's stress. Oh. Well, it turns out he was right. And
did you hear that?
So it turns out.
Can you repeat that?
It turns out he was right about the stress. Okay, he was right about stress is a real thing. So.
Am I stressing you out?
No, you're not, because I don't get stressed out anymore. So I started meditating. I thought, that's easy, right? I don't have to run or, exert a lot of, I thought, this will be an easy thing. This will eliminate my stress, and I can literally just sit there. Okay, but your mind goes crazy, and it can be stressful just sitting there trying to quiet your mind. But it's also extremely profound, and I would say it was the beginning of real change for me, finally, from years of holding on to negative beliefs of being a victim, that I can't make that much control, change is too hard, it's not going to do anything anyway, it doesn't matter what I eat, I still can't lose, weight, all things like that. So the dog is getting riled up. So I went to a meditation retreat. It was just a five-day retreat. We learned all different types of ways, types of meditating. We had, teachers that would guide us through different flavors, so you could pick a body scan or just whatever style resonated with you to meditate. So it was a nice intro. But what, pardon me, really struck me was when one of the teachers says, he looks out at us and he asks very calmly, because they're always very calm with these meditation teachers, because they're onto something, I'm telling you.
So what did your meditation teacher tell you?
So my meditation teacher, Bob, he asked us all, he says, who are you without your story? And it struck me like nothing ever had, and I'm like, well, yeah. Who am I?
Who are you?
Who am I without my story? My story of I'm too small to make big changes, or it's just this story of past abuses or shortcoming. The world is out to get me. Even electronic equipment, right? Printers. Yes. I have a thing with printers, or they don't like me. Actually, I'm over that because I don't identify with that story anymore. But it just really struck me, and I keep trying to go back to that question. Just really hit me, and so I hope it's impactful, to start questioning, what you're attached to, your identity, your story, your, what roles, what ideals you want to cling to. Like, are they doing you favors? Are they helping you out?
Mm-hmm.
And so that story that I clung so dearly to of being a victim or whatever, it wasn't serving me. And I just decided, yeah, that's true. I'm over that story. And in meditation, you can let go of that story. You really can. I mean, it takes practice, and you keep picking it up, and you're like, oh wait, no, I put that story down. So I think meditation was a really good way to show me, because you're doing it in your mind, you're practicing it, and your mind's wandering, and you're like, oh, look at that, I wandered off the breath, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna focus back on the breath. And I pictured it like we're watching the breath, so it was like a movie of the breath. I'm picturing it like my breath growing and shrinking, and in would come a thought, and they would always tell us to greet our interruption, because you don't want to be like, oh, I'm thinking again, oh, I'm a terrible meditator, because then you're doing that whole victim thing again. You're judging, flogging yourself.
Story you don't want.
The story you don't want. You're saying, I can't do it, see, So you're just like, oh, hey, you greet yourself like a friend, is kind of what they kept saying. So, oh, hey, reminiscing, I see you've brought your friend Guilt. Come on in, we're watching the breath, watching the movie. So, I'd be going along, and then, rehearsing, come on in, sure, have a seat, we're watching the breath. And I just kept greeting my mind wandering and redirecting it to the breath. And I mean, it would be 5 times in 1 second sometimes. But what it showed me was that I could do it, and that you're being aware. So if you're this person that's watching and going, oh, look, I got distracted, you're not that part of you that is distracted, because you're able to watch it. So then it makes you feel like you're bigger than your story, because you are, because you're observing your story. So if you can observe your story, then who are you really? But anyway,
that's deep.
It's pretty deep. But the moral of the story is, it showed me that I could change even my mind, my thoughts. I could do that, and it just, over time, there's tons of science, of course, on meditation, how it physically alters your brain. You could think of every time you get distracted and bring it back. Get distracted, bring it back. It's just like doing a curl at the gym. Every time you bring it back, you're doing another curl, and every time you bring it back, doing a curl, you're building this muscle. Every time you're bringing your mind back to your breath, you're building your mind. Your gray matter actually grows as well, so you do build it. But so it showed me that I could change. And I noticed that what carried over from there, which is what was the goal of meditation, was this gap I had between trigger and response was growing. So like, if somebody cut me off in traffic, I'd instantly, like, there's no gap, like, they cut me off, you jerk, it just happens. But with meditation, I felt like off the mat, that little gap, sort of, someone would pull me off, and I'd start to get upset, and then I'd be like, oh wait, I can choose to either be mad at this guy who probably didn't even notice me or is in a bigger hurry, or I can just be like, oh, whatever, he's in a bigger hurry, and did it really do I have to be mad about this? Does it help me? Does it serve me? Is it serving me to be angry? And I've been victimized by the cutting me off in traffic, or can I just let go of that? So I felt like that just started the ball in showing me I could change. So, and then realizing it's normal to always want to go back to your old habits too, like our wiring from Paleolithic times. So yeah, your body, your brain, everything's going to resist change. So even if it's a good one. So the goal is to, accept that you're going to change, be prepared for change, not flog yourself when you change and just be like, forget it, see, I can't change, and then go back to your old ways. You can always, just like with meditation, you can bring your mind back to the breath, you can always bring yourself back to your intention of eating better. There's never a time to not, just to give it all up and see I can't do it. You can always, even if it's multiple times a day that you have to correct yourself.
Which it is.
It is. It absolutely is.
Absolutely.
It is. So so we try to, combat that with self-acceptance, I think, is a really big one, instead of just giving it all up. You're like, yep, I blew it again, look at that.
Well, wouldn't you say that's really important, because, the way that we're describing to eat is different for most people, so that requires a change.
It's hard and scary.
And it will be a challenge. All change is difficult, so what you're describing from your own experience, which was wonderful, is potentially something that can help people as they try to implement keto with plants. Wouldn't you say that?
Exactly.
And would you agree that maybe meditation is a way to help to sort of facilitate change?
For me, it was. It
Yeah.
was like the laboratory of where I can directly experience and experiment with change. Over and I mean, you get multiple opportunities a second to show that you can change, and
Yeah.
and it shifted my thinking also into, speaking of opportunities, challenges like that being an opportunity, and it switched me from, I tried to be curious about, to just use the word curiosity rather than I'm angry. Oh, I'm going to be curious about this situation instead of angry about this situation and judging things as good or bad. And I think that just made everything more overall more calm in my life and more open to change and less clinging to my old ways and fearful and stuff. So
Less
I do
stress.
think, well, yeah, yes, it definitely got rid of my stress. And then I instantly lost weight on the retreat.
I was just going to say,
which was weird because
after years of trying to lose weight and not, she lost weight.
3 pounds on this retreat
And more.
And on the 5 days I was there, and then continued losing after I got home. And I actually was eating more on the retreat than I did before I was there. It was plant-based food there too. It was nice, but yeah, no, the stress reduction has definitely paved the way, made change easier to stick to. I mean, I'm not perfect, but I guess more resilient to the, it's not the self-flogging when I do make a mistake, like, oh, look at that. And grateful that I could observe it instead of
Right.
mindless, not knowing that I'm messing up, like I'm aware of it.
Even though you still do it, it's good to be aware of it, right?
If you're not aware of it,
You can't change.
you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
so that's one good way to think about that. And we'll get into gratitude. That'll be another topic.
Yeah.
But I think if you can be grateful of your awareness, like that's the perfect, like if you can't start if you're not aware. So if you're aware, celebrate that.
Absolutely. Well, we're aware of your story, and it's wonderful, so thank you for sharing.
Thank you.